4 months ago, or 6 months ago actually. It was in April when the 4 commissioners that were in that commission or rather resigned. 3 of them resigned that time. The 4th commissioner, that is Rosalina Kombe, resigned last year in October, just before the repeat presidential election. And recently we have seen the IEBC commissioners fire the chief executive officer, that is Ezra Chiloba, and we'll be having that discussion in studio with the former commissioner with the IEBC, that is former commissioner Letangule, as well as we'll be talking to Member of Parliament for Homa Bay Town, who is Peter Kaluma. He will be joining us on set in a short while. But first, let's look at some of the slides that give some of the facts that have been happening at the commission. And first of all, we now know that there are 3 commissioners in office after 4 commissioners resigned. As I said, 1 resigned in October last year, the other 3 resigned in April of this year, and their vacancy is yet to be declared by the president. Of course, the law provides on how that is supposed to be done, and there is uncertainty on their replacement in as far as the processing of that is concerned. The next slide indicates that the commissioner, the process of resignation is that a commissioner who wants to step out of the commission should resign by writing to the president, and after that the president has 7 days to gazette that vacancy upon receiving the communication of resignation. But that there is no communication, there is no gazettement of the vacancies of the IEBC. And then the selection should begin immediately through the constitution of a selection panel that is yet not yet done. The law as it is now is unclear on the composition of such a panel, but we'll be talking to Member of Parliament for Homa Bay Town to tell us how far that goes. And then since the resignation on 16th of April, there has been no action by the president. The next one, of course, we know now that the chief executive officer, Rachiloba, was sacked a few weeks ago. The IEBC cannot hire a new CEO because they have only 3 commissioners. They need a quorum of about 5 in as far as the law is concerned. And of course, there are repercussions why that should happen. Now in studio, I have the Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament, Peter Kaluma. Pole traffic. Sorry, but it's okay. We are just starting. And now the first question I want to ask is confirmation on, we have seen 4 commissioners, they are already out. They are not in the commission. And there's no gazettement of those vacancies. What should we do to replace those 4 commissioners? Yeah, there has been delay on the part of the president to gazette the vacancies. This is because Parliament has not put in place the law that would govern the filling in of those vacancies. So I would put the blame, if I were to say so, on the president and on Parliament. But again, we have to ask how far would we go if the president declared vacancies? Yeah, you note that after the last elections, we had a very tense country, and we needed to calm down. I've said before that matters to do with elections are not matters you just want to go, you know, full throttle on. It's a matter over which you need convergence of mind across the nation. So it was necessary that, of course, the president and Parliament delays. Let me say that there are about 3 initiatives to come up with a law in terms of how to fill in the vacancies. And my position and counsel to the country is that once, of course, we have the law in place, the vacancies will be gazetted, and of course, we will go ahead. But let me also indicate that nobody says that the commissioners must be more than 3. Some of the proposals we may be thinking about as members of Parliament is whether we can just confirm the 3 commissioners to be a full commission. As you remember, the Constitution talks about... We'll come to that, Peter Kaluma, because I know there are things that are being done to correct these. But first, as the commission is currently constituted, you are former commissioner, and that time under the leadership of Isaka San, you were 9 commissioners. Now you have 7. And the law as it is, I know there was an attempt to review the law in 2017 so that the quorum is 3 and not 5, but those amendments were quashed by the courts. So it would appear that the minimum, or rather the quorum is 5. Can the IEBC commissioners as currently constituted, they have already fired the CEO, can that decision stand, and can they go ahead to hire a new CEO?
Well, first I am talking as one of the election managers and an election expert, and in addition to that, a constitutional lawyer of 20 years standing. And so whatever we talk about is nothing personal to the current team. Right. We're just trying to guide the country on what is right and what should be done. As it is now, the law is clear on on the composition of the IEBC, not just the composition of IEBC alone, but on all constitutional offices and commissions. Article 251 sets the commission at a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 9. And to operationalize that particular provision of the constitution, the IEBC Act was then set up, which then guides on what that composition of the IEBC should be. And it fixes the commission at 7. And actually sets the doing of business of the commission, the quorum, at 5. Therefore, as presently constituted, as the 3 of them cannot conduct business properly, they are not properly constituted. If you look at Article 250, also 11, it says that the chairman and the vice chair must not be from the same gender. What that means is that for a complete composition of the IEBC, that particular provision must be respected. The 3 of them, gentlemen, none of them can be a vice chair. So this commission right now cannot function. Even if the commissioners were there, the 7 of them, assuming that they were there, and they are not turning for the meeting as required, 5 of them, then no decision can be made. And so, as presently constituted, the IEBC cannot do any of its functions, and it's completely crippled. I dare say even the action of sacking the CEO, to me, is, in my opinion, is null and void, and the courts can always intervene, because it needs a quorum of the commission as set by law to be able to conduct that business.
And so with all that, because now that would indicate, I don't know whether you agree with that position, it would indicate that any decision the current commission undertakes, as long as it requires the voting or the decision of the commissioners, then it would be null and void. What is the way out?
I don't agree. You know, my brother, there is a way in which we are trying to litigate matters already litigated in court. You remember the issue of quorum of the commission was before a judge of the High Court, and a determination was made. If a former commissioner is of a contrary view, maybe the advice is that it is not a view he wants to purvey here. He can go and appeal that decision. But there is a firm High Court finding that the commission has the quorum to undertake its businesses. And that is, you know,
but what
we are
happens to that
living with.
express provision that the quorum of the commission is 5?
The context in which the High Court spoke, of course, is there. What I'm saying is that we don't want to litigate things. Let me tell you, a commission in law deals with matters, you know, strategy and policy, more so if you look at the level of commissioners. The day-to-day workings of a commission, if you look at it in law, are of course matters left to the Secretariat. Let me tell you, if you said, for instance, that IEBC has no quorum to do anything, then how have we been doing this by elections? This is because the structure of law will tell you that for something like elections, so long as you have a returning officer in office, the returning officer is separated from the commission. So in terms of every role the commission is engaged in, what you need to look at is what does the law say about the ability of IEBC to do that particular thing. And I can tell you, in as much as you may say that generally there is a quorum, you know, if you are to look at the IEBC Act and the numbers, there are so much that the commission in its composition can still do. That is, of course, in my view, the distinction we want to make. Things like, you know, employing staff. Things like, you know, sacking Chilobas, they have done. I think it's a matter in court. But I can tell you, knowing the law as I do, his battles can only be now at the court. You know, Mtuku, I'm a bit guarded. I don't want to go into it because it's in court. But I can tell you, the thing that we are talking about is how do we get the commission to be fully operational. You get what I mean? And I think it is wrong when we blame people who have not resigned for the decision by others to voluntarily resign. I mean, let us look at, you know, the solution. That is why I was telling you that, to me, this matter is at the door of Parliament. This matter is at the door of the President. Full stop. Full stop.
So before we get there, there's another slide, that is slide number 4, that talks about the role of the Chief Executive Officer, who is now, of course, there's no substantive holder of that office. The CEO is obviously the accounting officer. He is the AIE holder, that refers to the authority to incur expenses. And then he's also responsible for hiring of staff, especially those that work at the Secretariat, apart from the senior ones that will have to be sanctioned, or rather done by with the intervention of the commissioners. Now, then there's a situation on slide 5 that, of course, the CEO is out. There's one deputy chief executive officer who resigned towards the end of last year. That was in November 2017. That is Betty Sungura. And several other top officials have either resigned or they have been shown the door or suspended. And just last week, we had that the medical scheme that was for the staff of IEBC was suspended. Of course, that would signal some crisis of sorts at the commission. Now, that's why I want to ask you the question. Looking at all this, the bigger picture, there are no commissioners. There is a challenge with the Secretariat. What is the way out so as to operationalize and return the operations of the commission to normalcy? And I want to begin with you, Commissioner.
Well, we cannot close eyes to the fact that 4 commissioners have resigned and that there are vacancies in the commission, largely because there is leadership problem there. But the way forward then is the leadership of this country, because this is a very crucial commission. It's a commission which conducts referendum. Right now, we're talking about conducting referendum. We're talking about, amending the law and all that. Yet, the commission is not properly constituted. And therefore, the first thing to do is for the leadership of this country, there are 2 ways of going about it. One is that Parliament then needs to look at the law and form a selection panel, which selection panel then will recruit and fill in the remaining vacancies so that the commission is full in place.
But the process of doing that, former commissioner, just before we go to the second solution, the process of doing that is, first of all, the president has to declare vacancy 7 days after the resignation.
Exactly.
The resignation was on 16th of April. He's yet to do that. He would appear, on the face of it, in contravention of the law.
Exactly.
What options does IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati have in executing this?
I have said, and I will repeat, under the current law, under the constitution, I'm not saying the chairman is not legally in office. He's in illegally, and so are the other commissioners. But the commission is not properly constituted. And it's upon the president and the leadership of the country, moving forward, to come and look at the IEBC and take it upon themselves and address the problem and solve it. And I've said, apart from forming the selection panel, which he has not done, then the other way is the political solution. Already in this country right now, we have the handshake. Right. The handshake has brought in the leaders together. It has brought in the former prime minister, the opposition. Looks like we no longer even have an opposition. Now that we are all in agreement politically, then why can't we then, all the political sides coming together, look at the IEBC, find a political solution to it, the way they did to our team then. They came together, they said we need to remove this team, and we negotiated a dignified exit. And that's what happened to us. And therefore there must be another political solution to the current crisis to enable this commission function. As it is, it cannot function.
Peter Kalume, you sit at the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and I know you have a proposal that one of the things you're looking for is to reduce the number of commissioners to about 5, and then the political parties will have a bigger role in the picking of those commissioners. But as the law is currently, what can you do as a committee, and what are you doing to ensure that this gap is filled?
The president would be acting in vain if he went ahead and gazetted the vacancies. Because as you are aware, Sam, there is no law governing or guiding how to, fill in the vacancies. Right. So the question to ask is to what end? And that is why I'm saying we made a mistake when we negotiated the law as it is now, under, you remember, Orengo and Kiraitu, because we created a one-off kind of selection panel just to establish the Chebukati Commission, then it dies. I think we never contemplated that we would have these vacancies. Right. But it is not a major thing. Let me tell you, this thing former commissioner is talking about can be sorted out in one afternoon in Parliament. What we need on matters election, matters critical to the country, is political goodwill. And I can tell you, there is, and there has been good wisdom in delaying the process, because that way you enable the country to come down after that, tense and long electioneering. I can tell you, if our political leadership as commissioner, former commissioner now says, you know, sat down and said we are passing the law this afternoon. Some it will be on the table. Yes, but my problem is when you come and say there is a problem in the commission simply because of, you know, failures of the political leadership, which were also due to, you know, the situation in which the country was. Let me tell, you know, our people that there is no crisis in IEBC. These things you hear about resignation of commissioners, we know where they are coming from. There are political interferences in IEBC. And so, as Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, we've taken the principled position that we will not jump into the political interferences. We will seek a solution. There are so many things which can be proposed.
Right.
Some, I'm one person who is proposing a law in terms of how to deal with the commission once and for all. One thing we must stop thinking about is the idea that we must have this animal called selection panel. I mean, why must we have it? If we created a selection panel, Bana Letangule, in which we had majority, you know, side represented, minority side represented, you had the religious leaders, which is not a statutory entity, you cannot go for anywhere. You had civil society. To what end were you impaneling these sections of the society if you did not want them to influence who ultimately sits in the commission? And that is why, if you look at my legislative proposal, I'm proposing 3 things. One, that we stop this pretense that there are some Kenyans who are politically neutral. Yeah, allow the majority side of government and the minority side to make nominations, and allow the law society as a statutory body with the specific statutory mandates to do their works. Number 2, I'm saying that we must avoid this situation that is, you know, being used by political leaders to interfere with the commission. I can tell you some, as I'm seated here, that the 3 commissioners who resigned last were instructed by somebody Letangule knows to resign in the promise of appointment. So one of the proposals in my bill is that if you serve the commission, whether you live in disgrace like former commissioner or you live upon retirement.
Did we live in disgrace?
Yeah, of course, we got them out. and you know, to some of us, to some of us, we would rather they are in jail. We can't countenance the fact that they are free. But we will not go back there. But I'm saying, howsoever you live, whether you vacate office by resignation or you retire, some 10 years after you've left the commission, you cannot go into a public office whose holder is appointed by the president and approved by parliament. Because you've seen it in the former commissioners. People live in the hope, like these ones were expecting to be appointed ambassador somewhere. This one, no, I'm not yet done.
I think
Letangule, no, not extraneous. It is in my bill. It is in my bill. Let me tell you some. Letangule left the commission the other
No, you are talking about these 3 commissioners who left and came back to office.
I'm saying that a provision I've put in there is that when you serve in IEBC, when you leave IEBC Letangule, you cannot benefit from public appointment for the next 10 years. And by the way, this is
Isn't that discriminatory?
It's not discriminatory. I can tell you, this is the situation in South Africa. This is the situation we had with the judges and magistrates vetting board. Don't be anxious. I know why I'm telling you. Don't interrupt me. We just removed this team of commissioners. Ask him what his role was in the last election for Jubilee. You know, the thinking that you leave a commission. No. You leave a commission and you mess up elections so that a president you facilitated will appoint.
Well, Peter Kaluma, we cannot start in what you're saying.
I don't want to go the way he's arguing, because now he's personalizing issues.
No, I'm telling you what is in my legislative proposal.
Let him have his say.
Yes. What I'm saying, and I'm opposed to his considered opinion on the way forward, particularly on forming a new commission, that we allow political parties to nominate people to the commission is a recipe for chaos, for disagreements within the commission, and it's not the way to go. The proposal which was put forward was by Kriegler Commission, which said the IEBC selection panel must be there to bring in people who are a bit neutral, who are not aligned to any political party, and who are able to do the business of the commission without answering to politicians. I will tell you, Sam, that in Zanzibar, here, just across our neighbors, the commissioners were appointed by political parties. What happened after the election, the last general election, is that they disagreed publicly. They were reporting to their political masters. And that proposal that Kaluma wants us to go cannot work in our case. South Africa has been able to have commissioners appointed by selection panel. And I think that is the best way to go.
In your proposal, the town member of parliament, how do you then, because you're saying that the majority and the minority plus the LSK are able to come and pick the commissioners, how do you insulate them from political influence? Because if it's ODM picking so-and-so to be a commissioner, the fact remains, at the back of their mind, they know they are there because of ODM.
In fact, let me tell you some. This is the way across the world currently. I was telling my brother, and I would challenge you, do a bit of research. Just Google electoral commissions. Go to the United States. Currently, there are 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. And they don't pretend. They indicate Republican, Democrat.
But be awake to the realities of
the reality of Kenya, in fact, are speaking to what I'm speaking to. The only peaceful election we have had since we came back to multipartyism were the elections in '97, the elections in 2002, and the referendum of 2005. Do you remember the composition of the commission which presided over them? It was the IPPG deal in which political parties put commissioners.
Sure.
So the fact of the matter is that the pretense that you have people who are neutral is not there. We took people like Letangula into the commission as neutral people, but you know the people they were playing for. In fact, in law, Letangula, even commissioners are expected to vote for a particular candidate against the others. By the way, they do. So the pretense that you have somebody who is neutral, somebody who will not have a political side, is absolute nonsense. Let us go the direction of political parties, and I can tell you some. The thinking of the world around that process, go the entire Europe and others, is that the only way to secure the independence of an electoral body is to have people whose political affiliations are known. That way, they cannot conspire to favor one political side against the other.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But as we leave this studio, we need to have a way forward. How do we move forward from this crisis that we find ourselves in, despite all the political aspirations that people might have and the proposals that we may have? How do we get out of this? Because there are things that need to be done by IEBC, and as currently constituted, they are not able to do it.
Yeah. I have said it some, and I will again repeat it, that whereas Honorable Kaluma thinks that they can sit one afternoon and solve this matter, if they can do that, the better. Because the solution to IEBC is a political one. The parliament and the leadership of this country needs to fix the IEBC. They need to see that there is a problem. And every day, looks like every day we see new things coming up, new resignations, new sackings. And so we have a commission which seems to be perpetually fighting within itself. And therefore, we need to fix the leadership there. We need to bring in on board either new members or the politicians sit and find a way forward. And negotiate a way where now this commission is properly constituted to enable it to do its function. We cannot even go to a referendum before we fix the IEBC.
You are the politician here, and without talking about Letangula, how soon can you have a solution out of this?
I can tell you there are 3 legislative proposals on the floor of Parliament for consideration now. There is no major crisis in IEBC. If there were, we would have gone into action. We needed the country to calm down, let Parliament, enact the law, whether we are going to have a panel or otherwise, or whether we are going to say that the 3 are fine. Let us not disable the operations of the commission by saying because some were caused to resign, others should also go. And then I can tell you, with the political goodwill...
So you're comfortable with the Chebukati's team until 2022?
We had said that they should go. The side in which he said they must be retained.
Why are you
what we must...
it's
on the Jubilee side. What we must avoid, Sam, is the idea that you use people, when you are done with them, you throw them away. Let us have procedures and processes for posterity. And this is why I'm bringing the kind of solutions I'm bringing. So I can assure the country there is no major crisis.